The one thing I love about movies is that they often teach us a lesson. Forrest Gump taught us that everyone is capable of extraordinary greatness and that happy endings don't always come right away. The Shawshank Redemption taught us the importance of hope and that even when things may seem bleak, hope and persistence can bring about change. And Groundhog Day taught us something even more important. Toasters are a rather effective way to electrocute yourself. But one movie has graciously provided the greatest lesson of them all. Army of the Dead, directed by Zack Snyder, contains a profound lesson I will never forget. It teaches us that all your dreams are worthless.
My dreams dead. You dead.
That even an amazing idea, filled with cool concepts, can be crammed full with extraneous elements and then butchered on camera. Just like Muammar Gaddafi.
Damn!
Army of the Dead is like watching a high-definition journey into an infected anus of a highly paid crack whore that grew up eating nothing but Taco Bell. And the only payoff is knowing you are one moment closer to the sweet release of death. Like the start of all zombie apocalypses, it begins with a toothy blowjob that causes an accident, which happens to also be the least believable thing about this movie. A guy getting head after the wedding. The crash compromises the security of the military payload, but it's not surprising, since it was secured with a repurposed squeaky screen door and protected by a bunch of stormtroopers that failed their marksmanship training course in BASIC. After the meshing rips, it unleashes a nightmare into this world worse than being forced to watch Andy Dick recite the vagina monologues.
No, hard pass.
After the super soldier zombie has been released, the title credits roll, where it abruptly changes direction. The movie shifts in tone more than a bipolar Gary Busey. 1 second Army of the Dead is serious, the next it's acting like a comedy with upbeat music and over-the-top kills. This movie is more confused than a teenage feminist on TikTok. Neither direction is wrong, and both could work. We have seen the comedy element brilliantly portrayed in Zombieland and Shaun of the Dead. But this movie mashes the genres together like a man with Parkinson's doing a puzzle. It fails miserably.
Oh, thanks. Oh, Jesus Christ! What the hell? Did you shake that up on purpose?
Parkinson's.
The movie would be better served if Snyder chose one direction and stuck with it. As it stands, the movie is about as good as a paraplegic ballerina. This isn't the only area where Army of the Dead has these confused issues. It can be seen through almost every element of the film, from the story to the characters to even the cinematography. It's the midlife crisis of Zack Snyder films. The core idea in the film is actually a rather good one. Scott Ward, played by Dave Bautista, has 96 hours to put together a team and pull off a casino heist in the zombie-infested quarantine zone of Las Vegas. After the time is up, the US government is going to nuke it into oblivion. But in practice, it's more like a sandpaper hand job with no finish. After Bautista finishes the movie's required indecision, he assembles the perfect ragtag crew to rob a Chuck E. Cheese run by a newly appointed high school manager.
Hey, I can hook you up with pinto and black beans.
As they enter the quarantine zone, Lily announces there are several different types of zombies. There's the regular ones that want a delicious brain slurpee, the super zombies that run like a T-Rex with broken arms, and finally, the robot zombies. Yeah, you heard me. F***ing robot zombies with glowing blue eyes. Which is about as stupid as removing Britney Spears' IUD. They are never explained or hinted at either. It's even easy to miss, but there's interviews where Snyder has confirmed their existence. So, as it stands, it's totally unnecessary and adds nothing of value to the film. Just to make sure Snyder hits all the tired tropes, there's instant conflict among the crew. They are immediately suspicious of Martin, who might as well be walking around with a sign reading, "I'm going to double-cross you." Nothing is left to be discovered through subtle hints in the dialogue or little actions that don't quite make sense. It's about as obvious as Peyton Manning's forehead. As everyone watching predicted, the double-crosser starts double-crossing people, and the entire mission starts going sideways. It's not even done in a clever way. The guy's entire plan hinges on the fact that no one in the crew is watching their backs or making sure they all get through the corridor of zombies. If just one person stayed at the door to cover the others, this whole scheme would have failed. Anyways, after fail Team 6 arrives at the casino, the group finds out that there have been other teams that have tried to get into the vault before them. Then they decide to split up, letting the clearly unreliable guy go off and complete his real mission. The entire point of sending the crew in for the heist was to actually recover the super zombie brain because it's more valuable. They could have told Scott Ward this was the mission from the very beginning and allowed him to prepare properly. I mean, the guy is only doing this for the money, so the mission itself is irrelevant. There's no need for the deception. All this does is add another layer of excrement to an enormous sundae. Army of the Dead then introduces the idea of the team being stuck in a time loop. Are you able to keep track of all these pointless threads? This movie is like finding the last Playboy in the apocalypse and realizing the centerfold is your mom. 30 seconds too late. This isn't some toss-away idea meant to be funny dialogue. There's elements of it scattered throughout the movie, like corpses with the same clothing and items as the crew, which makes about as much sense as hiring Caitlyn Jenner to be your limo driver. And because nuking your own city wasn't dumb enough, the government suddenly decides it can't wait any longer and wants to bomb Vegas in the next hour. The entire purpose of the 96-hour window was to make sure all civilians and military personnel have time to evacuate the area. The government doesn't just randomly change the time when nuking its own city. Army of the Dead fails harder than Oprah on a new diet. Even the timeline of the fail doesn't make sense. We are supposed to believe that years have passed since the zombie outbreak, and there are still people held in camps in case they might be infected. If this took place a few weeks or a month after the outbreak, then it might make sense, but not years. Anyways, the obvious bad guy leaves to do his obvious bad guy things, and cuts off the head of a super zombie, because that's the only body part he needs for his little private time adventures. Then we find out that the zombie woman is actually pregnant, which triggers the zombie horde. Apparently these zombies are f***ing like grandma in an old folks home on Pfizer Fridays. So once the fashionista zombie wearing a cape realizes he won't be getting any poorly drawn Father's Day cards, he begins reenacting Braveheart with the world's fastest horse and an expertly smelted metal face mask. At what point did zombies learn metallurgy? Was it before or after the regular filet-o-flesh picnic parties? I know this is a zombie movie, but try to maintain some semblance of internal consistency and logic. This makes about as much sense as Helen Keller trying to speak her first words. But just like Richard Gere's gerbil, I wouldn't get your hopes up, because the movie continues to contradict itself. Some people might say it's just proving the time loop in different time periods to be true, but I just call this shit. Then after the super undead man takes out a few more of the crew, Captain Obvious uses his keycard to unlock the gate that Bangs R Us propped open in the previous scene and makes his escape. But just to show everyone what a raging thunder he really is, he locks the gate behind him. Then he says he's going to the roof to steal the helicopter, but instead he proceeds directly out the casino front entrance, where he meets the local paw enforcement and does his best pulled pork impression. I guess you could say the tiger had probable claws. Okay, if you keep watching, I promise not to make any more puns. So, after this catastrophe... Okay, I swear, that was the last one. So now that the crew is in more trouble than an Asian kid coming home with an A-, the remaining crew is chased to the rooftop by the super zombie. Twice. As hard as it is to believe, the second one is dumber than the first. The movie ends with a cliffhanger you can see coming from a mile away, just a setup for a sequel. When it was finally over, I was more relieved than the time I thought I was pregnant, but it turned out to be gas. It's like 5 different movies crammed into one, and none of them are good. The good members of the cast are underutilized, like Hiroyuki Sanada. who is a stellar actor but is given flat lines that fail to impress. And Tig Notaro fits in with this group like Crystalia at a women's shelter.
Okay, that's about the creepiest thing I've ever heard.
Now, Army of the Dead had its own issues during production. First, it sat in development hell at Warner Brothers, only to be picked up by Netflix. But after filming had completed, they digitally removed Crystalia after some allegations and replaced him with Tig Notaro, which cost millions. Reportedly, the cost is close to the budget of the upcoming prequel film, Army of Thieves. The result of the switch, while technically impressive, is less than desirable. The shots with Tig never really feel a part of the group. But that may also be the result of the claustrophobic camera and lens work. With that being said, she delivers a standout performance with the dialogue she's given. But that's basically the story with most of the actors. Their performances are constrained by the sloppy dialogue and a script weaker than Jesse Smollett's Alibi. Now, for some reason, Zack Snyder decided he was going to be his own cinematographer. The guy is a capable director, but the photography in this movie is bizarre. The depth of field is amateurish and distracting. There are even dead pixels left on the screen, which should have been caught in post. If Army of the Dead was more engaging, people might not have noticed it. But the viewer is left more unsatisfied than a nymphomaniac in a monastery. Zack Snyder is a type of director that does his best work when he's constrained by a structured story. He's the guy that will find a way to add some cool visuals and elements that bring the story to life. But when he is given full reign over writing and directing, the result is sloppier than a truck stop glory hole.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
The idea behind Army of the Dead is cool, which is what originally had me excited. I had never heard of a zombie heist before. It was unique and had potential. But at the end of the day, I'd rather eat a homeless man's crab infestation than watch Army of the Dead again.
Oh, come on!
If you like my content, then consider becoming a channel member or joining Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content like being able to join live movie roasts with other members, join the Yeti Army private Discord and Twitter chat, have your name listed at the end of streams, and a whole lot more.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
There are also some amazing shirts on my Teespring store. All the links are listed in the video description. If you can't, then smash the like button, leave a comment, and share my video on social media. It really helps my channel. Now all of this talk about eating brains is making me hungry, so scram before you become Yeti food.